Hey world, my name is Keith and I host two channels here on YouTube. My main channel, Nerdy Keith, which is my nerd culture and educational style videos, whereas on my secondary channel, Keith's Universe, this is my human and animal rights activism style channel. So if you'd like to see more videos, feel free to subscribe and hit those notification bells. So this is episode 2 of Netflix and Chillin' Like a Villain, where I dish out my micro reviews on some of the latest content that I've been streaming online. So the first show I'm going to review is the Netflix original, You. So You stars none other than Gossip Girl's Penn Badgley as Joe Goldberg, a nerdy and intelligent bookstore manager. So far, Joe meets two young women whom he becomes infatuated with. He feeds on his toxic obsession via social media and other means to keep tabs on these women. He removes any obstacles to their romances by any means necessary. So this is a show that will leave you with mixed emotions. On the one hand, you want him to get his comeuppance because what he is doing is downright wrong and disturbing, no question. But at the same time, you kind of feel for him. I don't think Joe has ever really experienced real love in his entire life, and as a character he's got a lot of baggage and trauma from his own past. This feeling of vulnerability and desperation, we've all been there in the sense that we've all felt lonely and having this longing for romance. Most people, despite longing for a romance, understand that there are certain boundaries one simply does not cross. Now what this series does a great job of, it does a great job of keeping you guessing what's going to happen next. How are the other characters around him going to react? Is he going to get caught? What does work for Joe so well is he has a certain level of charm about him. Granted, he's got a lot of mental health problems going on too. So You could have very easily been a movie, and yet it works so very well as a psychological thriller series. Now when it comes to Better Call Saul, this is an interesting series. I'll be honest though, I really didn't think it was going to be any good. This is one of these series that I started watching a few episodes in, then stopped watching it, and then went back to it at a later point to give it a fair try. This is, of course, the prequel to Breaking Bad. The first two seasons are very, very slow paced. It is a lot to get through. You really have to have a decent amount of patience to get through those first two seasons. But to put it simply, this is the story of how Jimmy McGill becomes Saul Goodman, how he becomes this con swindler lawyer. We do get a lot of insight into Jimmy as a character and the support characters surrounding Jimmy. It becomes quite apparent that Jimmy is not a team player. He's really not. There's been quite a few occasions where he is basically thrown a lot of characters under the bus and downright betray them. Jimmy is a lone wolf, he means well, but ultimately there's a lot of depictions of his character that makes you think that he is basically a very, very selfish and shallow guy. Now, although they are part of the same universe, Better Call Saul is not Breaking Bad. It is its own show in its own right. It has its own identity. Now, by the time you get to season 3, the story is much more interesting. The circumstances a lot of the characters find themselves in is much more interesting, and overall, it's just a much more engaging watch. I also really love his relationship with Kim. Mind you, there's a lot of bumps and a lot of problems within this relationship, but it kind of keeps you guessing. Is it going to last? What's going to happen? Who knows? It's anyone's guess at this point. But Better Call Saul is a really good crime drama and dark comedy. I do recommend that you check it out if you can have the patience to get through the first 2 seasons. It is an amazing watch. Yes, I do realize that this show is called Netflix and Chillin' Like a Villain. That is a figure of speech. I don't just review Netflix shows, which is why I'm gonna talk about Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot is awesome, and I really, really enjoy this show. But it's not what you would call a casual watch or an easy watch. Not in the sense that it's bad or anything, it's anything but. It's an amazing show. But it's not a casual watch in the sense that you really have to pay attention to every little detail of every little thing that is happening in this show, because it's just so master crafted, I would say. Mr. Robot stars the very talented Rami Malek as Elliot Alderson, a very socially awkward young man who is a software engineer by day and a secret hacker by night. So Elliot suffers from a range of mental health problems along with drug addiction. So this show itself is obviously very heavily inspired by V from Vendetta, but it manages to have its own identity, while obviously having that very obvious inspiration. Now this show will not only keep you guessing of what may or may not happen next, but it also challenges your very perceptions of everything. Not just from what is going on and what's happening in the show, but your very perceptions of the characters, what their intentions are, even your perception of the main character. I usually don't like getting political on this channel, but Mr. Robot is also the perfect expression of anti-capitalism, and I'm sorry, but that is what this show is, and it expresses that so beautifully. All of the characters on this show are amazing, not just Rami Malek. The whole ensemble of the cast here are just top-notch. The layers of the characters is incredible. There's so much layers. You think you get a character, you think you have a character sussed out, and I guarantee you start watching this show, most of the characters will catch you off guard and they will surprise you. Now, Mr. Robot is by no means perfect. No TV show or movie is perfect. It certainly does have its flaws here and there. There are some portions of it that are a little bit slow-paced, but all in all, it is an amazing show. I personally thoroughly enjoyed it, so if you've got Amazon Prime, go and watch Mr. Robot. So, Star Trek Discovery. I've actually previously talked about Disco in my most recent Trek Spire episode, not so much about the latest season, Season 3, so let's talk a little bit about Star Trek Discovery. Star Trek Discovery is obviously a Star Trek spin-off. It is both a prequel and a sequel. It occurs before the time of Kirk, but also after the time of Archer. So it's about a century or so after the events of Star Trek Enterprise. So when I first watched Star Trek Discovery from Season 1, I was blown away with the aesthetics of this show. It looks so beautiful. It is a beautifully designed show. This is the most beautiful looking Star Trek I have ever seen. Wasn't crazy about the look of the Klingons in Season 1. They made up for it in Season 2. The Season 1 Discovery Klingons look a little bit too close to the J.J. Abrams / Kelvin universe Klingons. I guess there's lots of different arguments here. The Klingons have changed their look from the original series to the Next Generation, so on and so forth, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. It did, however, take me some time to wrap my head around the main character, Michael Burnham, being the foster sister to Spock. That did take some time to wrap my head around, but it is a great little tool to use to link Discovery to the original series. It does a great job of linking itself to the original series, and it does this in so many different ways. It doesn't just use Michael Burnham being the foster sister of Spock. It does it in a lot of other different ways too. All in all, it was a good first season. I really liked all of the characters, and I was so happy to finally see some LGBTQ characters once and for all in Star Trek. That was amazing. Then we've got Season 2. Now, Season 2 had a much more interesting story arc, story plot, and obviously we get to see, we are introduced rather to Spock and Pike in the original #1, so that's really awesome. I was kind of hoping to see Zachary Quinto reprise his role as Spock, but Ethan Peck did an amazing job. He is a really great Spock, and I was blown away by his performance. And then Season 3 came along. Now, here's your warning that I am going to give you your spoiler alert, so on the count of They blast into the future. They time travel all the way to the 32nd century. Wow. It took me a while to get used to the new tech, especially the new badges, but I loved the new refit of the Starship Discovery. With season 3, we get even more LGBTQ representation. We got some really wonderful trans characters, which is very important for the inclusive message of Trek. So this series yet again had an even better story arc and storytelling. There was a lot of evolution, a lot of growth for a lot of characters in this series in particular, so I was really impressed with that. We get to see different Federation relationships. Obviously this is a very different time and a lot has changed for the Federation, so it is interesting to see that shift. So all in all, Star Trek Discovery Season 3 was very well executed. I was on the edge of my seat the entire way. I found it amazing. There was a few episodes here and there that were kind of hit and miss, but all in all, it was very well executed, and I'm so looking forward to Season 4. So those are my thoughts on some of the most recent shows that I've been streaming all across the online streaming platforms. If you like this video, give it a like. If you like this channel, feel free to subscribe and hit those notification bells. Feel free to post a comment or drop me a video response. Just please include the video response hashtag in your description. And until next time, everyone, don't forget, nerds rule the world.